Speak up, reach out, go vote, show out. From your neighbor to City Hall. Reach out, go vote, show out. Serving people is what it's all about. Reach out, go vote, show out. Frankfort civic proud. Speak up, reach out, go vote, show out.
From Capitol Halls to Bourbon Balls, this is the City of Frankfort Podcast. For Frankfortians, we're swapping stories, spilling tea, and celebrating the quirks that make Kentucky's capital city the best hometown around. Welcome to the City of Frankfort Podcast. I'm Kenton, and today we're here with the city's Deputy Director of Public Works, Matt Noonan, for a special podcast episode, Stormwater Mythbusters. We're going to talk all about stormwater, debunk some of the common misconceptions. Welcome, Matt. We're excited to have you.
Thank you, Matt. I'm glad to be here.
Okay. All right, Matt, let's start off. How about you tell us a little about yourself and, where you come from, your background, and basically, what do you do as the Deputy Director of Public Works?
So, yeah, like I said, my name's Matt. I'm from Orlando. Predominantly focused on a lot of stormwater stuff. Went to the University of Central Florida, where I focused on a lot of environmental situations, where I moved here and where I spend a lot of time working with stormwater and other environmental-related concerns for the city of Frankfort. One of our major goals is obviously stormwater and keeping our waterways cleanly, and just keeping water flowing.
Nice. Now, let's kind of dive into a little bit more about the day in the life of a Deputy Director of the Public Works Department. Like, kind of, what's that about?
So, as much as I like to, spend all my time on stormwater, a lot of times we have to focus on many different baskets, from traffic, stormwater, pavement, and various topics throughout the city. So I don't exactly have all my time spent on stormwater, which is why, we're glad to have a fantastic staff that can spend all day, every day, cleaning up our roadways, storm drains, and so forth.
Speaking of fantastic staff, you and I actually have the pleasure of working together on a daily basis because I am the stormwater inspector for the city of Frankfort. So I am part of the wonderful staff that he was talking about. You're welcome. So kind of like Matt was saying, as a director, he doesn't have time he can't do everything. He can't spend all his time on one thing like stormwater. So that's kind of where like my position comes in. And, I will handle some of the day-to-day stuff with the stormwater and MS4 program stuff. So if you call and you have a stormwater issue, more than likely you will end up talking to me first before you talk to anybody. And I may be the only person you talk to. So that's kind of...
Yep, and Kenton's in charge of, reviewing everything from little storm drains all the way up through major thoroughfares of water through our city, ditches and so forth.
Yeah. So together we work as a team. We're only two pieces of a bigger puzzle, but, together Public Works, we kind of handle it. One of the biggest challenges with stormwater is people don't really think about it until it becomes a problem. Like if it backs up in your yard or something like that. But, we actually deal with stormwater every day. What do you say we do some stormwater Mythbusters and walk through some of the common perceptions and misconceptions about stormwater? What do you say to that, sir?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Myth number 1, stormwater only shows up when it rains.
And that is actually a very large misconception. Most people don't realize that if you are downstream from a major river, creek, or anything, water will come your way. For example, the river that flows through our city, the Kentucky River, receives a lot of water that comes from southeastern Kentucky, so if it flows in southeastern Kentucky, that water doubles back and goes through the city of Frankfort. So although we might not see rain, we might see increased water levels and even potential flooding, depending on how much rain fell upstream.
So that's pretty interesting right there. So it doesn't even have to rain in Frankfort for us to potentially have flooding. Say there's a big monsoon type event that hovers over eastern Kentucky, southeastern Kentucky, and just fills up the rivers from that away. Eventually it will make its way to Frankfort, and we could potentially see flooding from that.
Yep. And then, that can take days, hours, weeks. It just depends on how much rain and how often it's falling.
Yeah. So that's an interesting fact right there. Okay. Well, this kind of goes hand in hand with that. Myth number 2, flooding can only happen during big storms.
So that's going to be dependent on what kind of infrastructure and kind of how the storm falls. For example, if you have a storm that drops 3 inches in 20 minutes, it can cause significant flooding. Filling up storm drains too fast and everything just starts backing up. So it's not necessarily how big the storm is, but how fast it falls on you.
Okay. So this is we're kind of going to go off script here a little bit. I hope you don't mind, because this kind of goes hand in hand. So I'm going to say this is myth number 3. No matter how much rain we get, the stormwater system is designed to handle it, because this has been something we've dealt with a lot this year.
Unfortunately, not true. So the grates and all the infrastructure we have is actually limited for a specific, what we call a design storm.
Oh.
So a design storm is essentially saying I get a rainfall intensity of X, inches per hour over a period of time. So anytime you cross that threshold over, inches per hour over a certain time, that's more than our inlets can take. It's going to start backing up and causing, flooding, what have you. And that's true going all the way through, creeks and everything else. Creeks have limited capacity. If water gets there too fast, they can fill up too fast and just water can't go anywhere. It starts backing up into the street.
So that's like that's the importance of like the rain intensity you were talking about. It's not necessarily the overall rainfall sometimes. It's how quickly that overall rainfall comes, correct?
That's right. If you get 10 inches over the course of a day, it's going to be far more severe than if you get 10 inches over the course of a week.
Fair enough. I mean, that's a good way to think about it. Okay. Our next myth, stormwater goes through the water treatment plant.
That's true in some areas of the country and the world. For example, in Toronto, you have what's called a combined sewer system where everything kind of flows together. But here in the city, generally speaking, every drop of water that comes into the street, your yard, or anywhere, it goes directly to the creek or river itself. There's no treatment factor, so whatever you put in there will go down the drain to the river.
So if it's on the ground, it's in the river. That's a good segue to try and tell folks, like, hey, be careful about the stuff you're putting on the ground. We don't want people, putting used motor oil on the ground, or dog waste. That's that kind of stuff that can cause issues in the watershed, right?
And that goes all the way down to leaves. Throw too many leaves, it blocks up the storm drains, and it adds a lot of excess nutrients to our water that wouldn't normally get in there if we break them and pick them up and bagged.
So here's a myth to kind of go along with that. Litter. The myth is litter isn't a stormwater problem. You kind of just talked about that. Even leaf litter, like excess leaf litter, grass clippings, stuff like that, can get in and clog up a stormwater system and cause a major issue.
In general, if one person, does it, it's not usually a huge deal with trash or leaves and such. But, if you have that on a community-wide consensus that it's okay, then, it kind of compounds and can be a huge problem. For example, you go over to areas like Bangladesh where they dump their trash in the water. And it pollutes the water and everything else, and that eventually makes it to the ocean. So just because we don't see it go on the ground doesn't mean it's not going somewhere that can impact someone else.
Yeah. Okay. So don't dispose of your yard waste in the storm drain. To make a long story short, we do not want people doing that. And we do have some programs here in the city to kind of help take care of some of those things. I know we do a leaf collection in the fall, correct?
Yep. Every fall we have residents place all their leaf litter in piles on the edge of the road, and we come through with our vac truck and we suck them out.
There you go. So, there are ways to kind of help curb that. Also, you've probably seen me or Sarah at any of the local events here, and usually we're there and we have some dog waste bags. So if you ever need some, then you can probably find us at a city event, and we will probably gladly give you a dog waste bag, like a little roll of those, so that you can, help keep our waterways clean. Let's see here. This is a good one. On that kind of same note, storm drains clean and filter water. True or false? Or is that a myth or not?
That is false. Storm drains do not filter out anything from the water. Anything that goes in the drain will just go in the pipe and will go downstream. For example, if you dump oil, that oil will go into the gutter, which will go into the drain, which will go into the pipe, which will end up directly in the river. There's nothing that's going to mitigate that on the way.
Okay. What are some kind of like stormwater features that you could expect to see around the city? Like if somebody has never really paid attention to this and they're wondering, is this a stormwater feature, or is this like something to help convey stormwater, or is this like What are some things that we use in the city to convey stormwater that people may see daily and just never thought about?
Some of the obvious ones are, little storm grates, metal grates in the road that look like they're kind of in low spots where water seems to be being directed. Mm-hmm. Those are the more common items. Some items that people don't really think about are maybe side yard ditches, where water just kind of dumps into them and is conveyed through people's property to a ditch or stream of sorts. Mm-hmm. Most people don't realize that is directly part of it. Another one would be front yard swales or ditches. Those are designed to catch water that's shedding off the road and kind of work its way through the system. They aren't necessarily just part of someone's yard.
Okay, so those ditches or those indentions you see in some people's front yards, those are not just to make it miserable for them to mow their grass. They actually serve a purpose.
Yes, they 100% are for conveying water.
Okay.
Same reason for having pipes underneath their driveway.
Okay, so there you go. The pipes that you probably have under your driveway at home is a stormwater feature to help convey that stormwater. So probably don't fill in those ditches in the front of your property because it could cause issues.
Yep. And if you see the pipes are clogged, do your best to kind of keep things from going in them, keep the opens and ends free flowing.
Yeah, that's a good can do to kind of help out and to do their part into ensuring that we have good quality stormwater and to ensure that they are not the cause of any issues potentially.
Even the simple things, mow your grass regularly. Make sure you're not letting it go too long where you have excess grass clippings getting shot out into the street or into your front yard swales or into storm drains. Keep your, like I mentioned earlier, keep your culverts in your front yard underneath your driveways clear. Mm-hmm. Direct water to open space versus directly to your driveway. That'll help slow down the water and make it, keep the system from filling up as fast. There's just little things that you can do daily, or even just per every storm, or however often.
Okay, good information. What about this one? So you kind of talked about this earlier, but let's try and dive a little bit more into it. Water drainage and wastewater can share the same underground pipe.
Yes. So actually, downtown Frankfort have what we call a combined sewer system, where when stormwater flows directly into it, it can go to the wastewater plant, and it kind of mixes with the sewage in high stormwater events. Obviously, the goal is to keep them separate, but historically, when they built older cities, they were combined and went directly to the river. So we do have some areas where that is the case. We're actually working with the EPA and state departments in Kentucky to help separate those systems, so that way we don't have any combined sewers at all.
Great. Yeah, no, that's an excellent thing. I mean, that should definitely help the quality of our stormwater discharge as a city, getting those kind of things under control there. Let's see here. What about, so all stormwater is surface water. How about that myth?
That is definitely a myth. Yes, although we can physically see stormwater runoff from rain and other sources, the biggest culprit we see with water issues, particularly in residential houses, is what's called groundwater, where water sits in kind of like a table on the ground and kind of goes up and down depending on how much rainfall you have. For example, if you have a crawl space and water's coming in through the soil or through the sides of your foundation, there's a good chance that that's most likely groundwater.
Oh, okay. So that's a good one. What about like I know that Frankfort's a pretty karst place, and we have some sinkholes and stuff like that. So you want to maybe talk a little bit about like that kind of stuff? Like, is that kind of, I know that there are places where water enters those sinkholes. Mm-hmm. What happens to the water once it enters like a sinkhole like that?
So there's actually two situations that the karst environment creates in Frankfort, and that's the first one being sinkholes, which, traditionally speaking, is a direct connection to the cave system below us, where water is directed directly into the hole, which then flows into the underground aquifer system and through, the rocks and caves and what forth. But you also have the opposite scenario where water comes up through the ground in what are called springs. Mm. We have several springs throughout the city of Frankfort where water just constantly is coming out of the ground. That's a that's a unique item to fix or to deal with in general. For example, Parkside Drive has a spring, so water is constantly flowing over the curb. So you think, well, why can't we capture it? Well, it's not necessarily as simple, because they pop up all over the place.
Yeah. So springs, like where the areas where springs are can kind of move around. So like that water will find the easiest path, and sometimes it may pop up over here, but it could pop up over there. But there could be, several springs in one area even.
Right, and then there are also areas where if you see the roadways deteriorating at a rapid rate, or you see a curb is always wet, that's probably a good sign that there's either groundwater or a spring nearby that's kind of pushing up on the infrastructure.
And that's kind of a harder issue to solve, correct?
Correct.
Like there's not really much.
Yeah, there's no overnight fix that you can implement that'll make the water go away.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about stormwater and the roadways. Stormwater myth. The roadways are there to convey stormwater. That's one of their functions.
That is a myth. A roadway is actually designed to shed water. The best thing we can do for our roads is to get the water off of it and limit the moisture. That's why we have, curb systems and front yard swale systems and other systems that carry the water. The road itself is not designed to physically carry the water.
Okay. All right. And so what are some of the things we do as the city of Frankfort to kind of help with stormwater stuff? Like, so you talked about people not having grass clippings, not waiting until the grass is too high. What are some preventative maintenance things that we do as a city to kind of ensure that we don't have stormwater issues or try to curb that as best we can?
Well, the biggest items we do are we send out with our vac truck or our vacuum truck, which can suck out leaves, litter, and dirt from our storm drains and kind of keep the system clear. But we also do things like redefine ditches and other things in areas that are high volume of water, that receive a high volume of water.
Yeah.
So we really just do our best to make sure that the system is free flowing and clear.
Okay. So that's kind of our job, is to make sure everything's free flowing and clear, and to give our system the best chance it can to direct our stormwater the places it needs to go. Like, we're trying to corral the water and keep it the places it needs to go, but it's constantly fighting us. It's one of those things. Water is one of those powerful forces. Matt, thanks for joining us today to bust some of these myths on stormwater. If you would like more resources on stormwater, you can visit the Public Works Department page on the city website. Matt, we like to end all of our shows with a Frankfort Rapid Fire. So as a fellow Frankfortian, we want to hear some of your takes on the town. You say the first thing that comes to your mind, no explanation needed. You ready? All right, let's go. Favorite Frankfort event?
The concert series downtown.
Oh, good one. Okay. Shout out concert series. Best burger in town?
Best one I've had is at the Brown Barrel.
Okay. Nice. East Side or West Side Kroger?
West Side.
Okay. West Side Kroger. I like it. I'm a West Side Kroger guy myself. Favorite season in Frankfort?
Well, my favorite season anywhere, fall.
Okay. And then this is a good one right here. What is your favorite Frankfort waterway?
Ooh, see, that one is a little more difficult. I would probably say the river itself.
Okay, so the Kentucky River?
Yeah, and that's just and generally speaking, the river level gives us an idea of how efficiently water is flowing.
Okay.
Kind of how the ebb and flow of how much rain we're getting, and just the hydrologic impacts are just interesting.
So that's okay, nice. Makes a lot of sense. Well, thanks for joining us this week, fellow Frankfortians. We'll catch you again next week on the City of Frankfort Podcast. Don't forget to follow the City of Frankfort Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and make sure you subscribe to our show feed on Podbeam or wherever you get your podcast to get weekly episode notifications. Thanks again, Matt. We appreciate you coming on to talk stormwater with us.
Thank you for having me.
Speak up, reach out, go, show out.